everyone, I am back from my vacation and I am ready to do another Classic Movie Monday and continue on making videos for I don't know how long, but hopefully there'll be no long gaps of interruption. But without further ado, let me discuss a fan request, which, as you can see by the title, is Midnight Cowboy. Now this one in particular, I would put in the classic category in the same way that the fan who requested me to do this video and put it in the classic category is because that it is a rather unique film and how it deviates from the traditional three-act structure and focuses a lot more on character rather than on trying to have a cohesive plot. But without further ado, let me give you a sense of what the film is about, regardless of the fact that it doesn't really follow a traditional three-act structure. But the basic take is that you have these two characters named Joe Buck and then Enrico Salvatore Rizzo, and for the majority of the film he's called Ratzo for short. Played respectively by Joe Vogt and Dustin Hoffman. Now, the basic tale that this film likes to dive into is basically a story about sort of, the lowlifes of society, more of the people who are not as well off, trying to somehow get into the rich and lavish sort of lifestyle. And again, you'll kind of see how both characters are sort of trying to get that kind of a dream. Joe Buck in particular, since he is the main character, is the one that's primarily focused on. And he, as a sort of dream or goal, wants to ultimately be a male prostitute. Yeah, that's a rather unique dream. Maybe not the same exact dream as some other people might have, but that's kind of his goal, and he kind of portrays himself as that stud kind of cowboy, and hence Midnight Cowboy. He's like very, he's just like this very sunny looking guy, who's in shape and who dresses very lavishly. There's a lot of presence with his character, I think, and I think the actor John Vogt does a really good job of doing that. But basically, in order to do this, he thinks that he can go to New York and find a bunch of really well-to-do women who will, give them money in exchange for his services. So, he goes to New York, and that's where he runs into Dustin Hoffman's character, Ratzo. And basically, they sort of develop a friendship, and he's sort of a con artist, Ratzo, too. Again, he's sort of a low class. He's not really well off. His apartment is completely out of shape and not taken care of, and he just resorts to stealing most of the time, and he doesn't seem to have any life goals either. So these two sort of kind of get along together, I guess you could say, because of those reasons, because again, they don't seem to really have any true goals or aspirations for themselves. And it does sort of explore, again, their backstories a little bit. You will get more with Joe's backstory as opposed to Dustin Hoffman's backstory, or Ratzo's backstory, because Joe is basically the main character of the story. He is really the Midnight Cowboy, basically. So he's given the most flashbacks, and again, this movie really does emphasize the flashbacks, because again, it's really focused on being a character study and not necessarily a film generated towards having a plot or cohesiveness. So you will see these flashbacks, and they did confuse me. Sometimes I didn't really understand what was going on because the flashbacks were so rapid that it was really hard to take in exactly what was going on. It's only when I did research into the film that I realized, oh, okay, that's what was really happening within the flashback. So this might confuse some people, so I just want to mention that that's something that's worth considering, I think, going into the movie. If you don't mind flashbacks, if you find flashbacks very intriguing, you will enjoy this movie because this movie has a lot of them. It's also a very trippy film. There's certain things that go on like that I go, I have no idea what's going on. Sometimes it tries to be artsy, and I think it just comes off as very strange. But I think what really holds the film together is, again, this relationship between Joe Buck and Ratso. Regardless of their flaws, which are many in this movie, they seem to kind of develop this sort of nice friendship, and they do seem to have, despite their differences, some commonalities to them, and you'll sort of see how ultimately Ratso wants to sort of go to Florida, and that's sort of his kind of dream, sort of similar to Joe, who wants to be a prostitute. But basically, you kind of see, though, how this relationship ends up sort of developing, and how that ultimately sort of leads to where the end of the film leaves off. It's not supposed to be this really uplifting film, I feel. I think the film itself is very dark in its aspects, in particular with, or has just a lot of dark aspects to it, in particular with its flashbacks. I think with the flashbacks that you'll see with Joe, you'll kind of sort of maybe not necessarily sympathize with him, but maybe understand where he's coming from and as to why he would want to pursue this really short sort of lived lifestyle, because again, you can't really be a prostitute when you're in your 50s. At least I don't know, maybe you could. I don't know, but but really, it doesn't seem like his goal is really to do something. It's more to sort of escape, I think, his problems, because again, you'll see how there's like these flashbacks that he has, and that the people that he ends up encountering sort of bring back those kinds of flashbacks, and within his past, and you really do feel like he's had some problems with his childhood in particular, with his younger adult life. Like there's a lot that has led him to come to this decision to ultimately be a prostitute, and I think a lot of that comes through and is identifiable for people who maybe wanted to go into that lifestyle. So I think that, again, these flashbacks are a good reinforcement to what the story is trying to bring to the table, and I think it really works. I also think this film stands out in particular with Dustin Hoffman's acting. I think he just does a really good job of playing this Ratso character. I think he's more likable than the Midnight Cowboy, Joe Buck, because he doesn't have that egocentric kind of personality to him. He's not trying to sort of pursue a means to an end. He kind of just wants to, live. And also, it should be emphasized too that Dustin Hoffman's character Ratso is also has some kind of disability, I think, with his legs. Like, he can't really walk all that well. I'm not sure why that's the case. I don't think there's really given context as to what happened, but he does seem to have these sort of struggles throughout the film, and he does cough a lot, and I don't know if it's because of his cigarette intake. Again, a lot of people smoke in this movie. So I don't know what the reasoning be, but he just is he just looks really sick throughout the entire movie, and I think the movie did a really good job of making him look like he is on that verge of just giving up, because with whatever they did with Dustin Hoffman to make him look like he is completely lacking of anything, I just think that they just the way he looks, I think, is just perfect for the kind of character he's supposed to play. And the interesting thing is I don't know if they really use a whole lot of makeup or anything, but just with the beard and just the clothes and he just looks dirty, and I think that comes off really strongly. Uh, and with his acting, I think it only enhances the film itself. So I think his character is the one I think that really stands out to me the most. Um, but at the same time, I do have this sort of sympathy for Joe's character and what he went through during his youth. And I understand that all of these problems could have ultimately led him to this kind of decision and the kind of personality that he has. So, again, I think the movie does a good job of providing context to the characters. So, if you like characters, this is a good one because it's more of a character study and it's not so much of a plot-driven movie. The movie just sort of ends. I mean, it does have sort of a narrative and an objective. Like, they want to ultimately go to Florida. That's what the two characters ultimately end up deciding that they want to do. But again, there's a lot of meandering, and it's definitely not the 3-act structure. It's just designed to be a certain amount of it's supposed to be a certain amount of scenes that tie into what the entire film sort of addresses, but it's not really designed to be plot driven, or there's no really specific ends that they have to get to, or it just sort of ends when it ends. But I think that's really all I can say about this film without giving really anything away. I think, again, it deserves to be in this sort of classic category in the same way that Pulp Fiction does. It has that sort of same narrative. The film can be, I think, a little bit graphic at times, so just be prepared for that. But I think ultimately it does a good job of giving the characters sort of context, and you kind of understand, why they react the way that they do. And I think a lot of that has to do with their youth, with their childhood. And you'll see this when Dustin Hoffman's character is talking about his dad, and you see it when Joe goes into his random flashbacks. So there is a lot of context, I think, given to the characters, and I think that's what makes the movie stand out. And it's rather unique in focusing on these kinds of lifestyles, as opposed to something that's maybe a little bit more traditional. So again, it's one of those quasi sort of not traditional classic films. So if you don't really like the non-traditional classic films, this film might be discouraging. It's funny because going into this film, I thought that it's just going to be a standard Western film, and it's not a Western film at all. It's completely a drama. So so some people might be wondering, why is the title like that? And then it's not about what you think it is. So yeah, just be prepared, people. The title is nothing really. I mean, it does kind of give you a little bit of context, Midnight Cowboy, but it doesn't give you, I guess, the full context, unless you kind of read a synopsis of what's going on within the film. You'll kind of understand that it's a drama. It's not a Western. So just wanted to throw that out there. It has nothing to do with Westerns. Not even a gun is shot is slinged at this movie. No. The only thing that is cowboy is Joe Buck. That's it. And all that appears that is cowboy is everything that he wears, pretty much, which is all the cowboy Western style. So I think, though, that's really all I can say about this film. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But this film, I think I should also note of it being in the classic category. Again, it's received numerous awards. I think it won Best Picture that year of 1969. So yeah, it's definitely, I think, one worth exploring if you enjoy these sort of non-traditional classic type films, sort of similar to like Pulp Fiction, or I'm guessing Memento 2 kind of goes into this category too. But regardless, I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you all later. And I hope that I can just continue on making videos and don't have to worry about any more vacations. But if in case anything happens, I'll be sure to let you all know. Alrighty, take care. Bye-bye.